Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember MEAD magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
We're gonna get a little bit crazy, wild and maybe even vulgar if you please. It's after dark and we're gonna light it up. We got some fun in store for you, no tease. It's time for Midnight Edge after dark. A little naughty, will hopefully make you chuckle, but we ain't trying to hurt nobody, so get ready quick on the double, cause it's time for Midnight Edge after dark.
That's right, we're back. It's Midnight's Edge After Dark, the best show on YouTube. Tonight, have you had it with all these superhero movies? Our classic films, the future? We'll find out when we discuss it here on Midnight's Edge After Dark. Welcome, everybody, to the program. We have Six back with us tonight. How you doing, Six?
I am doing A-OK. It's a special day for myself as well as many others. It's National Cat Day. So I'm just here to remind everyone to give the pussies in your life a little extra TLC.
Oh, my.
So I didn't even know.
I saw something about that. I wasn't sure if it was a real thing or not.
I think every day is National Cat Day.
I was going to say, on YouTube it is. I have this theory that no matter what you watch, it eventually will lead you to a cat video. Like,
yeah.
If you don't mess with anything, if you just keep going with whatever the next video is, if you put it on autoplay,
yep,
about 6 degrees away from a kitty video, it just eventually leads you there, and you're just, oh, cat, oh, cute otter, oh.
Yeah, all roads lead to cat videos.
Absolutely. And we also have joining us for a short time, at least tonight, because he's got some other things he's got to do, but he will be here for a little bit. Price of Reason, how you doing?
Good. How's it going, man?
Yeah, it's going. It's been a long week already. I've done a lot of work. We've been dropping, well, we haven't been dropping nearly as many videos as I've edited already, but get ready, kids, because we got a lot of videos we're going to be dropping in the next day or so. So we did drop one already today.
Yeah, I watched that Wicked one.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that if you want, guys. I mean, that's up to you.
I feel badly for Ariana Grande because I think she just wants to be an entertainer, and I don't really. She's kind of in my periphery, but I don't think she really wants to get involved in causes and that kind of thing. I think she just wants to be an actress and sing her songs and do her thing, and she's unfortunately got a stain from Miss what is her name? Olivia Erivo. Cynthia Erivo. Yeah.
Old Cindy. I've been calling her the Wicked Witch of Broadway.
She is so fucking full of herself. I went looking for something. You guys were talking about it, and I went on a fact finding mission, and I watched so many clips of her, and my God, she is on a whole other level of diva.
Yeah, I think Andre did a pretty good job comparing her to Jonathan Majors, because a lot of it feels like the same
wow.
stuff we heard about Jonathan Majors after the, you know, the honeymoon period with him wore off, and everybody's like, oh God, he was a nightmare to work with, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And we're starting to hear similar stories about Cindy here, but yeah. So for those who don't know what we're necessarily talking about, we did drop a video of this on the main channel, but there's this poster that the fans have decided they wanted to make look like the original poster from the Broadway show Wicked. For those who don't know what this is the story that kind of kicked off this whole idea of having the bad guy be misunderstood and give their own backstory to it, right? So so this poster come out, and it was just a fan-made poster, you know. And here's the fan-made version of it to kind of look more like the playbill in the poster for the Broadway show, which had ran for 30 plus years, I think, at this point.
Holy,
close
what?
to it. Yeah, it's been quite a while, close to 30 years,
No.
if not 94, 95, 96, I want to say is when it
I
started.
don't think
Look it up.
that book even came out until.
Well, let's see.
Don't say anything, Price, while Tom and I are
I'm
typing.
way off on that one. but the
I
book came
live
out
I live in the
95.
New York area, and I want to tell you that the show has been around for years, and I never even once thought of going to see it.
Okay, the show
because-
didn't start till 2003, but the book's been around since 95.
Generally
go.
speaking, I'm a man, and as a man, there's no
Generally?
business for me to be at any kind of
Generally.
nonsense like this. I looked at
that's
it, I
the
saw
thing.
what it was, and I said, nope, never setting foot into this thing. So
Okay.
now that they're making a movie about it, really, the stakes are low for me. Is it supposed to, it's like a Wizard of Oz prequel? There's only one Wizard of Oz. That's the Wizard of Oz. You know, I'm willing to accept the Wiz because I like Michael Jackson and Diana Ross and Quincy Jones, and the music is cool, but that's like a variant, and I'm okay with it. I don't need anything else. Whatever could have been done with it has already been done in the best possible way. This just looks like shit to me.
Okay,
What
the
about
book is
it is not masculine? What about this movie is not okay for you to see because you claim to be a man generally?
Well, generally speaking, when I walk into a place and there's a bunch of people on stage singing and dancing, show tunes, I already feel like maybe I'm in the wrong location. Now, once in a while, if I have to, I'll go see some Broadway show, like very, very rare if I have to. But if I had it my way, I probably wouldn't see any at all. It's not for me. I like music and I like entertainment, but somehow the singing of the dialogue, the singing and dancing, it's too much for me. It feels like there's a target audience for that. Now, if let's say I meet a supermodel and she's like, well, let's go see Wicked, maybe that would be worth it.
Oh, there's a target audience for it.
Right. I mean, there could be very, very
It's not just gay people.
special circumstances, but left to my own devices, me by myself, that I would go see this thing, I don't think so. Now, the movie I may go see because I like to review stuff and I can see it for free, so maybe I'll do it. But generally speaking, I don't think that they need to expand on the Wizard of Oz, especially not with this nonsense, from what I can tell in the trailers.
Well, as I was saying before, like when the book, so to be clear, the book came out in 95, the play started in 2003. So the play's been around for over 20 years. The book's been around for close to 30. So I was pretty close. And I know this version of the I think this was one of the covers of the original book, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, this poster, this image has been around for a long time, associated with Wicked for a long time. And as I was saying in kind of the opening of this is the original version of the Maleficent kind of story, you know, that we're used to now. So I will give it that. Like, this is the first time they did it, whatever. I know the play was like huge, and it was one of the longest running ones ever on Broadway. So, and
it was huge. It was huge. I never set foot in there. Huge.
Yeah, no, and I mean, Darth Jomo, I like that better instead of Darth Mojo, says, as a gay man, I can confirm Tom is right. You may also be able to confirm whether or not I'm gay or not. I'm thinking about 25% gay. just to be sure. So yeah, so what happened then after this was Cynthia Erivo, Miss Cindy, the chick playing Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the East, she turned into the Wicked Witch of Broadway and decided to go after the fan. I mean, now we're used to a thing like this, right? So this is nothing new for us under the sun. This has been typical, you know, stuff for years, especially Star Wars fans.
Has a celebrity ever gone after fans and had it work out for them?
Never.
No.
Never. It's never worked out. And she is just being so stupid and spoiled and diva-ish about this, and nobody cares. It's just a stupid poster. She's just doing like negative PR. It's as if she went out of her way to do. Usually studios pay money for a lot of good PR. For her, it's just doing bad PR for no apparent reason.
So yeah, so her original response was this. This is the wildest, most offensive thing I've ever seen, equal to that awful AI of us fighting, equal to people posting the question, is your pussy green? Which is actually a meme from the old Broadway show.
Did she say most offensive thing I've ever seen?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. I know. None of this is funny. None of this is cute. It degrades me. It degrades us. The original poster is an illustration. I'm a real life human being who's chose to look down at the barrel of the camera at you, the viewer, because without words, we communicate with our eyes. The poster is an homage, not an imitation. The cult, my face, to edit my face, not cult, sorry. To edit my face and hide my eyes to erase me. And that is just hurtful. Well, I mean, she's got a point there. Gosh. I mean, wow. I mean,
you know, she could have been graceful and said, wow, props to the fans, you know, because I know that there was a few people who made, I don't know if there's like one original person who
yeah, there's a few of them, you're right, yeah,
who is claiming that, you know, that they remade the play poster, but she could have given them a shout out and said, hey, thanks for, you know, promoting this movie that I'm in. Well, but I can't help but wonder if she was like drunk one night, posted that drivel that you just read, and then the next morning said, oh shit, I better double down.
Maybe. I mean, I think she just feels this way in general, and this seems like par for the course from hers, from what we've been hearing. And actually, there was one individual who did one of the more prominent ones that did get attacked at first, but then a lot of the fans come out in their defense. I think it was a she, if I remember right.
I think that if this movie doesn't make a ton of money at the box office, Cynthia Erivo is going to find herself in the same category as those kind of Ray Fisher or whatever it is.
Weird.
Or also, yeah, future Ziegler.
She reminds me most of Ziegler. More
yeah.
Than anything, yeah.
Studios don't want this crap. I mean, right now everybody will say, "Oh, of course we support her. We love diversity and inclusion." All the studios will make those kind of statements if pushed to it. But really, what's going on is that I think that these people are now on a list, and if these movies like Snow White or this don't make money, they're going to find that their well of roles gets dried up. In my opinion.
Well, there's something to that, but I don't know. Nobody caught me or pushed back on it earlier when I said she might have a point, because I was setting up that, I mean, really, we don't have her on the show here, so we should show some representation here of Cynthia. So there you go.
Well, the reason why nobody took you seriously, because once you said she has a point, we all know that it's you're telling a joke or something. So it was too obvious. Nobody thinks that you think that she has a good point.
Yeah, because we were all jumping in here. So no, but yeah, so there she is. She's a representative on the panel.
Tom's taking her from behind.
Right. It kind of looks like you're doing naughty things with her. I mean, it's not my place to say.
But yeah, right. So
she's, yeah, lesbian.
Yeah, she's lesbian. Because on that note,
she doesn't like dudes.
What were you saying, Six?
I think queer. I think is what I heard her say specifically. I don't know what the difference is. I really don't.
I don't anymore either. So here's she could doubling down.
Play for both teams theoretically.
That's fine, because there's only 2 teams to play for, folks.
Anymore, there's 57 genders, so I don't know.
I better be quiet now.
Well, here's her actually doubling down on this. So she went and talked to Rolling Stone magazine.
The intention is to allow her to show up as me in my body. Right. And I loathe to make it about this, but it is what it is. As a black woman who is queer, who shows up in this way, absolutely, there's something that I have that many other alphabas don't have. They don't know what it is like to walk through the world like this. I do. Yeah. And so that immediately makes me completely different. And the way he shot it,
I love how she just assumes that even though there has been black women who've played the character before, she just assumes that nobody else has ever been anything but straight playing this role before.
Who cares?
Yeah, what does it even matter? Who cares?
I know, right?
Is she a lesbian in the book?
Technically, there is. That's the other thing that has some fans worried. So I'll get to that in a moment here. But it's funny too because I'm curious as to why they even chose her. And I know you said you didn't mind Ariana Grande in the part, which yeah, she seems a little bit more like a age appropriate character. But most people are pointing out too that this Cynthia chick isn't even that much younger than the original character. Or the original actor who played the character, Indina Menzel or whatever fuck her name is, Adele Dazeem or whatever the hell, that singer from Frozen. That was how she got her claim to fame, is she was in the original version of the play. So I mean, I don't even understand why they're even bothering with this Cynthia chick anyway, because she's not even a movie star. She's only been in a couple things.
No, she was nominated for something because she was in, I don't know if one of those 12 Years a Slave or one of the.
She was in the Disney Pinocchio remake too, as the fairy godmother.
That's not what got her the role. I think that the main thing is that she was nominated for an Academy Award. I think for being in some movie about civil rights, something that probably raised her profile enough. But I don't know. I was going to say something that I think that they should do a buddy comedy with her and Jodie Turner-Smith. I think that, I'd like to see I'd like to see how that would perform in the box office.
I'm not going to that.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Oh, Harriet Tubman. People are saying in the chat it was.
Oh, was that Harriet Tubman movie? That was what she was in?
She played Harriet Tubman, I think.
Now that I remember that, yeah. No, they said that Bryant brought it up. Yeah, I remember that.
And I guess
she has an incredible voice.
That's what everybody says. I haven't heard her sing yet, so I can't speak to that.
She's kind of been in my. I've known about her for years, and that's because of her singing. I think she is very.
The fact that you're on Broadway and you can sing doesn't mean you have to be a douche, and that applies also to Rachel Ziegler or whatever.
And what makes it even more alarming for me as somebody who comes from a theater background and been trained in theater and all that kind of shit is we're taught pretty early on. It's not about you. There's a reason that the term "the show must go on" exists. There's a reason understudies exist, right? I mean, unless you're a major movie star who's coming down to do Broadway, like you're not the fucking draw. The draw is the show, right?
Well,
for somebody like her to exist in this world just boggles my mind. What do you want me to play? Sorry.
Can you put that clip up again and play just the first?
Sure.
She said something about the character embodying her or something, or she embodies the.
We got Nick.
Hey, what's up?
Nick?
He finally came.
Mr. Nick.
Better late than never.
What did I tell you guys before the show? Nick said quarter after, so that means he'll get here by when?
Yeah.
Actually, you're 5 minutes later than what I said. I said he'll be here between 6:20 and 6:30. Or 6:25 and 6:35 or something like that. I said, I can't remember now. Something like that. But anyway, welcome, Nick. But anyway, Six wanted to hear this again, so we're gonna hear what she had to say here again.
The intention is to allow her to show up as me in my body.
Me.
Yeah.
And I
show up as me in my body. You're becoming the character. She's not like entering you.
Right? Yeah, that's a great point.
Maybe she does want to enter. Never mind. I'll shut up.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go there with this, but yeah, no. But there is.
That was low level. That was low level. It was the lowest level of comedy that I resorted to, and I'm ashamed of it. I'm sorry, Nick.
Ever? I've heard
that. You should be proud. Come on, own it.
Not ever.
Take it.
All right, I was a douche.
My eyes at it.
I was a douche. Go on, Tom.
But you were a great douche.
Oh no, this was not even meant to be on the docket today, but since it was brought up, I figured we could express what it was about. And the video has actually been doing very, very well. Actually, today's news starts with a bit of sad news. And you know what? Fuck her, Cynthia. She doesn't need her representation on MEAD. She can go away. We had a bit of sad news to start off the show with tonight. This is really sad. We lost Teri Garr at the young age of 79.
Yeah.
Young Frankenstein and star of Tootsie. A comedic genius. I mean, she has been in so many films and a big part of probably most of our childhood. She also had a second life in shows like Friends. Of course, if you've seen anything growing up in the 80s, you've seen her in stuff everywhere from Close Encounters to Tootsie, as I just mentioned. Just a heck of a talent, and it's really sad, even though she wasn't that young, but it's still, to me, like anything under 80 feels like it's young. I don't know.
I agree. It always feels like maybe they could have had a little more time.
Yeah, I loved her in Mr. Mom.
Yeah, Mr. Mom.
Such a great character. Yeah, very talented woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's sad.
Jeez. Oh yeah, absolutely. Another one of the good ones. Of course, that's how it seems to be, especially lately. It's really ramped up in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know she was going through anything.
Yeah, she had multiple sclerosis.
Oh, did she?
Oh,
that sucks.
Jeez. Damn. Yeah, that'll do that.
Yeah, I remember her popping up in Dumber and Dumber. I'm like, that's Teri Garr? Because she hadn't done anything for a little bit, and it was just like, oh, okay. No, but as I said, she kind of had a second life to her career because of Friends, more so later in life. But yeah, I mean, more memorable, one of her most memorable performances probably being Young Frankenstein, as the chat is bringing up. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the role that made her a star anyway. Let's be real. Yeah, so no, I mean, she was in the original Star Trek. She was in all kinds of stuff. She's been around for a lot of years, and it's too bad. A lot of people are going to miss her, I'm sure. Yeah, I hate starting off the show with sad news, but we have to sometimes. Let's see what you guys are talking about.
It's necessary at times.
Action Com says, if you hit the random button on Wikipedia enough, it will eventually lead to hit. That does not surprise me. I'm not even going to finish the name. And Action Com fires in another 5, says, people have top 10 lists of movies, plays they want to see. Price has top 10 movies, plays he hasn't seen, and damn it, he's going to keep it that way.
I've seen some of those classic ones because, at some point maybe I'd had to see something, but I saw the Phantom of the Opera, trying to think. I saw
Was
Cats.
a supermodel with you?
What'd you say?
Was a supermodel
with you?
No, I'm ashamed to say that it wasn't with a supermodel. I think that Phantom of the Opera and Cats I saw because I was young or younger. I don't know. It was more that I went with people or something, but it wasn't a supermodel situation.
You're in college. It was a rough time.
The only time that I kind of gladly went to one of those things is that, and this was also many years ago, Kelly Bundy, Christina Applegate.
Yeah.
She was on a Broadway show called Sweet Liberty or something like that, where she's kind of, she's dancing around and doing all this comedy and singing and whatever. And somebody gave me a ticket for like a front row seat or something like that. And then I just said, okay, I like Kelly Bundy, I'll go. And I went and I had like one front row seat and I sat there and she danced and she was wearing all these outfits. And mind you, this was, maybe 20 years ago or something. So, yeah, that was, I rather enjoyed that experience. I also made sure to drink some whiskey. There was like a bar there. And it was a decent experience. But that was really a very, very specific thing.
Isn't it isn't Wicked the play in the South Park episode that the guys take their wives to get a blowjob?
I don't remember.
I can't remember. Isn't that Wicked?
I don't remember.
Or what was the
You're
other? What was the
probably
play?
right.
Was it Wicked? I think it was. The chat remember for me.
I couldn't tell you. That's hilarious.
Because Randy figures it out and he tells everybody, so all the guys start taking their wives to Wicked. Wasn't it Wicked or was it something else?
Oh, I couldn't.
I don't know. Somebody else to remind me in the chat. Oh, it's a fucking hilarious episode. Yeah, I saw that he Tarantino praised Follow Do. Well, he didn't say anything that we haven't been saying, though. That's the funny thing is he manages to, it's his opinion, right? He liked it. That's fine. But he clearly acknowledges everything that everybody hates about the movie. So at the end of the day, can you really say he's wrong? Right? It's like, it's his fucking opinion.
He's basically
like, no, but the movie's a fuck you to the fans. It's a fuck you to the studio. It's a fuck you to the first movie. It's a fuck you to everybody.
Basically, Tarantino is this kind of renegade or once renegade guy. He appreciates the big middle finger that Todd Phillips gave the whole world when he made this movie, which, like, he even says with Tarantino, it's such a mess it barely even works as a movie. This is part of his quote unquote compliment that Tarantino is admitting that the thing is a mess and doesn't even work. But he just loved what a middle finger the guy gave to everybody, and I don't know. That's not really
with all his tastes, but he never manages not to be honest, right? Like that's the thing about him. I can't say he's ever been really dishonest. Because he just kind of lays shit out there. And maybe it's just because he's got diarrhea of the mouth like I do, to where, just shit just goes, blah, 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 and then he thinks about it later. Because he's even pointed out, he's like, I don't even think about it. It's like I say something and I don't think about what I'm saying. Next thing you know, it's fucking headline news. It's like, so, and he does these podcasts and shit all the time on his own channel, or he's got his own, not channel, but I think he does them through Spotify, or I've been trying to find it. I can never find it. I find clips and shit from it all the time, but I haven't actually been able to find the actual podcast to listen to it in full. So if anybody knows anything about that, since I'm tech-tarded, please hook me up. Too Tired sends in 10 and says, The Wizard of Oz is really one of the few fairy tales America has being such a young country. This is true. I never really thought of it this way. That's a good point. That's why it's beloved. The new movie dishonors that and will anger people universally love the Broadway show. Now, here's the thing I was kind of getting too tired that I didn't really broach yet. And that is, fans of the original play are extremely worried that the movie is going to bring in too many elements from the book. Now, you asked earlier, Six, is she gay? Not in the play. It's kind of hinted there's a little bit of a thing between her and Glinda, but that's about it.
Well, wait a minute.
In the book, though, I guess it dives a little bit more into that shit. And the book is like uber proto-woke.
So does the play's based on the book, but does it deviate pretty far from the book? And is this movie based on the play?
Yeah. It's kind of a hybrid, it sounds like. So that's the thing, is the play is, it takes the concept, some of the story elements, but really kind of does its own thing. And I think it really does, because the book and the play both are meant to be this also ran kind of Elseworlds version of a possible prequel, right? To the Wizard of Oz. And in that, the play just played it more straightforward, to where the book gets into more of the politics, I guess, of it all. If that makes sense. Now, the girls tried explaining some of the shit to me, but I've even, in some of my research, I've seen a lot of people in comments and other things say the same kind of thing, that the book is this very woke thing that before woke even existed, right? To where they can kind of tell that they're kind of pulling more elements of that from the book into this new movie. And that's one of the reasons why it's probably a 2-part, 3-hour long each feature, instead of just one 3-hour long movie, like the play is. 1 3-hour long play. So we'll see what they actually add to it. But I mean, I think it's still only rated, I think it's been rated already. I think it managed to get a PG. I don't think it is even PG-13. So they might not go that deep into anything. So I just see them dragging it out forever, maybe.
Well, yeah, didn't they already stretch it out to 2 movies?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying is, and to be able to do that, where are you getting all these extra story elements from then? Are you borrowing from the book? Or can you
the author's gay.
If I had to take an educated guess, I mean, they could be borrowing some stuff in the book, but also they could also be dragging out things that don't need to be as long, but they want to kill it for running time. And let's not forget how all the requirements that movies now require. So that adds time alone too, because you gotta have this, you gotta have that. There's all these fake job committees where you gotta have X amount of certain race in the scene here, and they gotta adjust to all these dumb little things. So I'm sure that's definitely gonna be in this movie, whether it ends up being a ideology driven movie or not. But that stuff still, as far as the making of the movie is going, that's definitely going to be affected.
Well, and Neil says the book is not woke, it's populist. Well, that's because the modern terminology of woke didn't exist yet. It was kind of came out of the PC culture of the 90s, which was kind of proto woke, and that's what I've been calling it for a while. But we were smart enough then to see it for what it really was on its surface. And we're like, okay, that's just too far. We could still at least see things from, a semi-even perspective of like, yeah, we can't go too deep into the weeds on this shit or we're going to end up like we are now in this modern time. So, yeah. Well, I don't know what you're disagreeing with, Pork Sword, but you can say no all day long. I don't know what it is unless you tell me exactly what. You're saying wrong. Okay, just take the L. The L on what? How am I wrong? I don't get what you're saying. It's all the same thing. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. Anyway, Goddess of Whim's in the house. It says, can we talk about both these roles were race swapped from the original play? Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel are both as white as bread. Well, because what's her face? Ariana Grande, is she like what is she? She's
white. She's not a Latina.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think even though she's got a little bit in her
I mean,
genealogy, but
again, I could be wrong on this. What Pete Davidson used to say is that she went to the tanning salon all the time because she wanted to look more sort of Latina, even though he claimed that she wasn't. I don't know what's true. I haven't Googled and I have no idea. In this one, she looks the opposite. She looks, and I don't even like how she looks. I think she looks kind of strange. I mean, her look is always that she looks like a little girl, and maybe that's good for some people, and maybe it's not. But now with this weird yellow thing and the weird yellow eyebrows, I don't know what to say. But again, she was never my preference to begin with. So maybe some people are into.
Oh, she's Italian. Okay, basically
she's Italian. Yeah,
so
but do you agree that she has weird blonde hair now and she looks strange?
I didn't recognize her at first. I'll be 100% honest with you.
And I don't mean that as a compliment. You could say whatever you want how she previously looked, but it was sort of, it suited her. This thing doesn't suit her as much.
It wasn't until we started doing these stories that I even knew it was her, to be honest with you, or the girls were talking about it or whatever. So on Toxic Femme. Because I had no clue. I'm like, oh, okay, it's Ariana Grande.
But I don't have anything personal against her.
No, I don't.
I don't know her. Whatever. I don't really know much about her. I know that sometimes when they have her do impressions, she actually is quite good at singing and impressions and stuff like that. As far as her music goes, I probably I've heard some things that she's done before. If you deleted them from existence, nothing bad will happen. The world will continue to spin, and nobody will notice if you delete all her music catalog. You know those movies that it's like the Twilight Zone where somebody wakes up and then something doesn't exist anymore. So if we woke up and all of her catalog didn't exist, the world would be fine. It's as if like nothing happened.
Yeah, and honestly, like I was saying before, Goddess, I'm surprised they didn't have Idina Menzel come back. Now I can understand the other chick, Kristen Chenoweth, because I've seen a picture of her and she definitely is starting to look her age. That one I could understand recasting, and she's not as well known as far as an actor now. But Idina Menzel has been that was what, as far as I remember, thrust her out into stardom with that, between that and Frozen. So, I mean, it almost feels like she should be playing the part to me. I mean,
yeah, but the EI is priority, so that's exactly what's taking place here. They feel, oh well, it was always done like this, so we got to make it.
And
different.
Even if the story wasn't woke or it's proto woke, like I said, they're definitely probably going to swing into the woke with it now because it fits it so well, like a glove. So yeah. ActionCom says with 5, the only entertainment venue that can fight their fans are wrestlers. True. I mean, if they challenge you and you get up in the ring, I mean, what are you going to do? Meteor Advocate Taman sends in 2. What's our dollars? Well, it's our dollars now.
Romanian.
Ooh, he's Romanian. The Bull Ring says it all. Yeah, oh no shit, dude. Oh man, look, I'm somebody who, like, I get it with these kids. I'm old now, so a lot of this stuff is not going to look attractive to me. But the nose ring thing started when I was in high school, and I thought it was fucking nasty then. I just kept thinking, what if this person sneezes and that fucker shoots out like a bullet?
I just don't understand the appeal. Just in general, the things that make other people attractive. Somebody's smile, their eyes, muscle tone, nice legs. But when you look at, if you're somebody who's attracted to that, why? What are you thinking when you see that? What makes it desirable?
I've never minded like earrings and such. I mean, I even have.
Yeah, but do you notice them?
Not really. I quit
Like if
wearing
your
them 20
girlfriend
years
wore
ago. Exactly.
What if your girlfriend wore the same pair of earrings every day, or if she changed them every day? Would you notice?
My girlfriend, maybe. I mean, because I'd probably buy some of them, and so if I knew she was into them, but I mean, if it wasn't a big deal, I mean, men do try. I mean, men do try to do the things that women want. We just always fuck up somehow. It just never fails.
I've never wanted a man to notice my earrings.
Well, I know women generally want men to notice things. That's
like that, dyed hair, any alterations that they made to their appearance. Yes, they do. Most of them do like that and prefer that
new pair of shoes, anything like that.
Oh yeah.
And then we got SFX F314 Sabretooth Raptor in the house. Thank you so much for the 10 buckaroos. It says new movie Dracula Bat Tom unanimated and loving it in Hollywood or Las Vegas. It is a multiverse movie that has Sesame 1, 2, 3 Dracula Bat Tom, Swedish, Norwegian, Romanian, and Scottish versions. So it's like the Bat Tom verse of Draculas. So we have the Swedish, Norwegian, Romanian, and Scottish version. Scottish Dracula, I'll bite your fucking neck. And then you got Romanian, is like the typical, like, listen to them, the children of the night. And the Norwegian one would be like, what music they make.
All I can think of when you do that accent is, and when anyone does that accent, is Groundskeeper Willie.
Oh, yeah, that's the one that kind of took over now. And then you got, of course, the Swedish one is Bork, 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 gonna bite you in the neck. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is on the panel. 6. There you go. All right. Well, we're losing
our religion.
Price. Well, that too. Price here. So go ahead and plug your wares, Price, and we'll let you get on out of here before we get into these other stories.
Okay. Well, there's the main channel, Price of Reason, on YouTube, and then every Tuesday and Thursday, there's also on Price of Reason Live on the live channel. There's the Night Owl. So either subscribe to Price of Reason on YouTube or Price of Reason Live, or both.
When are you doing some karaoke with Tom again?
Well, maybe this weekend. Who knows?
Maybe on Friday. We try to do that on Friday night. I've had a sore throat recently, and I hope, I don't really know if it's why that's happening, but that's why I kind of have not been on the up and up when it comes to the singing, but maybe we'll try on Friday.
All right. Sounds good. And you take care of yourself and check out Price's channels, guys. And I'm sure
all right. I'll see you guys later.
Bye, Price.
See you later, man.
Bye.
All right. Let's see what we got here for stories. Because, this is another one we're going to be dropping a video on here soon. Ooh. Variety seems to be going with the same thing I've been saying for a while, and that is that there is kind of a superhero burnout. And they have a headline here with most superhero movies flopping. Can Marvel and DC's 2025 slates reverse an unprecedented box office drought? Now, this is half a good write-up here. What did they miss? Well, what they did right, let's do that first. What they did right is point out some of the obvious. How basically in the last 2 years, none of these films have opened real well. In fact, less than 50% of them have, and in most cases, 55%. And comparatively to the first few years of superhero movies where they were doing very well. So where the average was more or less than 500 million, that's what it was talking about. So it brought all that kind of stuff up. It did bring in some of the saturation, which is a factor.
Yeah, it's saturated, but
it's very
saturated. What made it worse than the initial idea of the saturation was that the fact that the quality is absolutely diminishing, along with the only thing.
That's the part they're missing here in this story, basically, is the parts that we would bring to the table, and Andre's probably bringing to the table most likely in his video.
Yeah, because you could trim the fat, and if your movies are still not good, that's not gonna make anything better just because you have less. It's like, sure, less can be more. You want, have more time to focus on what they make it the best thing it can be. But if the product is still the same, then it was never a quantity issue. But then when you have the product being bad, and on top of it, there's way too much of it, then it's going to seem like it's even worse because it's just constantly coming at you. And you're just like, oh, great, more of this. There's no time to rest, no time to breathe.
I was going to say,
things are going good and things are coming frequently, then people are excited.
Let's take the obvious aside, being the woke and stuff that they don't bring up here in this article. And they do mention the saturation, and Deeple is right here. Look, as much as we like these movies, we were used to being lucky to get maybe 1 or 2 superhero movies every few years in some cases.
Yeah.
And then to the point when it started getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And now we had a height, I think, at one point where just between DC and Marvel, I think he's right, 6 movies, I think, came out. What year was it? 2019 or 20? I can't remember which was.
2019 alone had Shazam, Joker. You had also Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame.
That's what I'm saying.
Spider-Man,
So
Far From
that
Home.
alone, even if they were good movies, come on, that's oversaturation. As much as you love something, you can't eat the same meal every day, day in, day out, for breakfast, dinner, and supper.
I think 2018 had even more movies if you think about it, because if you remember 2018.
Maybe it was 2018, you're right.
2018
I think you're right.
had Aquaman. It
Somewhere
also
between
had
2016 and 2020, I know,
and Venom, and Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Black Panther, and Avengers Infinity War. So they were armed and loaded like in 2018. It was like, and then on top of it, there was, stuff like the shows coming out, the Marvel Netflix shows. Then I think they're wrapping up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time as well. So it was absolutely. Oh yeah, there's I think 3 Marvel Netflix shows that year. There was the final season of Daredevil, final season of Punisher, final season of Jessica Jones. I remember that now.
Well, and Michelle D is right. Back when I was growing up, we just had Howard the Duck, and we were fine with just that. Right? No, I mean, that's the thing. We were lucky to get one every year, every other year. I mean, it kind of the superhero craze took almost a decade to kind of cook and get perfected, and then it didn't take them half that time to fuck it up. Just a little history reminder here, because it all started with Superman the movie in 1978, and then Superman 2, and then you had, a couple other things try it with like Howard the Duck and such, and you had some things on television that worked, like Incredible Hulk and all that kind of business, and then they kind of figured out the formula with Batman, though. Batman was the one that really kind of took off, and then from Batman through 95, 96, you actually had some pretty decent superhero films in that era, but then they started tapering off at the end of the era. But then you had a few things like Blade that were highlights in there and such. But it wasn't until X-Men and Spider-Man again when the actual superhero reign began. And I know it's tough for people to think about it, though. It's been over 25 years, or roughly 25 years now, where we've had basically superhero movies almost dominate, especially the last decade.
Oh,
right?
Especially the last decade.
Yeah,
I mean, even with the MCU alone, granted, the MCU phases 1 and 2 and 3 start off from 1 to 2, then 2 to 3. Then you factor in the DC movies. Then you factor in Sony trying to get their Spider-Man movies off the ground. That obviously didn't, really succumb to anything on top of the animated movies. Then even DC would still put out the occasional animated movie too, like Super Pets, Teen Titans Go. Yeah, it has been absolutely armed and loaded with a lot of them. And I mean, yeah I saw Aaron mention in chat that he's tired of them. Me personally, I wouldn't be tired of them if I was enjoying them. But some people, even if they are enjoying it, yeah, that's gonna happen too. But if you feel that way, it doesn't mean also everyone feels that way.
Well, and I think that where I'm coming from with this, and I think that the general audience might feel this way, is we've gotten to a point where it's like I said, everything's a superhero movie now.
Yeah,
right? Like in the theaters, it's like it doesn't help when we don't have anything else to go with, right? We don't have any comedies anymore. I think that's probably why things like Terrifier and Smile are doing so well, because they are almost counter programming at this point. I mean, the audience is outright.
Well, also, horror has a dedicated audience.
It does. It does.
Horror's got a very royal, rabid fan base that they will check movies out just to see what's going on.
But outside of your John Wicks and your random action films like that, I mean, the action genre is actually dominated by comic books. And you're right.
Oh,
In any world, the comic book genre is actually more diverse than the Western genre was as far as when it dominated. Because the reason the Western genre works so well is because you could plug in all sorts of different kind of stories into it, right? It could be a drama,
Yeah.
it could be a comedy, it could be a musical, it can be an action, it could be a horror, it can be whatever it wants. Same kind of thing goes for comic book movies, but you kind of almost you can expand that even a little bit more with things like Joker, right? Or even Deadpool and Wolverine, where you take it to, you know, both those are the polar, you know, differences. But then we had a movie like Venom 3 that came out this weekend, though, that, again, like Joker, even it should have done better than it did. Now, I don't know if everybody did you see it yet, Six? Did you see Venom 3?
No, I haven't seen it.
No, I don't know
I
if
saw
you watched
Joker,
it
though.
yet, Nick. You did saw Joker, yeah. So yeah, I did see Venom 3, and I actually thought Venom 3 was fine. It was better than part 2.
I've actually been hearing quite a bit of fairly positive reception about The Last Dance, which I absolutely did not expect. And it's like, wow, I'm actually surprised. I mean, hey, I'm happy for those who saw it and thought it was fine. That's good to know it wasn't horrendous or awful. So, hey, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes in the next year, because I have a feeling that Captain America, The Great Reset, and Thunderbolts are going to be like bombs like we've never seen before. The best
that's
bombs,
actually
the brightest.
The best way to segue into the next part of this article, because getting into the woke problem, right? Because that's the thing that's kind of expedited this whole thing, because I've said this before in the morning shows, and I still stand by it. If Marvel had just done what they were doing in the first few phases and didn't really change anything and just started cranking these things out, this superhero thing probably could have lasted at least another close to a decade. But they brought it to an extremely early halt with all this woke bullshit, right? And now you're looking at a situation where James Gunn's got Superman coming out next year, and this is a make it or break it thing for DC and kind of his career at this point. And he's got Marvel dumping 2 pieces of shit right before his movie comes out. And that also is a big fucking problem for Marvel as well, who's got a lot riding on, you know, reviving the Marvel universe with, you know, their Robert Downey Jr. returning and Fantastic Four and Secret Wars. I mean, is this going to be is this bad news for Superman going into this? I mean, wouldn't it be better had we not had all these superhero movies leading up to it? I think if we had a break, it would help. But I think we're going to get Captain America and the Thunderbolts and shit like that before Superman, I think that's going to hurt it. What do you guys think, Six?
I don't have superhero movie fatigue. I have good movie or bad movie fatigue. If there was a great superhero movie that came out every month, fantastic. I mean, we didn't get much in the 80s and the 90s. Like Michelle said that, you know, we had Howard the Duck and we were grateful for it. But that didn't mean that when I walked into that one superhero movie of the year, I didn't come out loving it just because it was the only one that the movie studios were giving us. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if they announced, you know, amidst all these movies that are coming out, if they announced Swamp Thing was going into production, holy shit, I'd be all over that. I want to see, I just want to see good ones, just like all the rest of us want to see good ones. So I don't know why they're making crappy ones. I know Bob Iger said that Marvel's gonna, was it in this article? He said they're only going to release a maximum of 3. Marvel's only going to release a maximum of 3 movies.
Older interview, but it might be mentioned here again. But yeah.
Yeah. So they need to release different movies. They need to release movies that have, like James Gunn said, that they're not going to put a movie into production until the script is finished. Well, everybody else needs to follow that.
Yeah, but Warner Bros. Is already making a bunch of fumbles. Granted, and I'm not saying this is going to be a dig on the upcoming Superman movie, but they're already going all in on this DC universe, and yet we don't even know if this universe is going to succeed. They still need to get Superman to succeed first before they do these other things. And it doesn't help that they're already introducing a bunch of other characters in Superman's movie. And we don't know yet still if it's going to be characters that happen to just have an appearance, or they're going to be characters who are be very prominent in the movie. If they're prominent in the movie, I'm not going to say it's going to make a bad movie for me, but it's definitely going to hurt my enthusiasm and how I'll view the movie as a Superman movie, because it's just another, it just comes off as a DEI quota without having a DEI quota, as in your face about it. It's, oh, well, we need to have these other heroes here because everyone's a hero now. We got to have everyone there. And it's even happening in the books nowadays. Now they give Lois powers. They give everyone around powers because it can't be Superman's adventures. I'm not joking. Now it's got to be everyone's a hero, and everyone who's involved in Superman's cast must have.
Yeah, you had that prop in the Flash and stuff.
Oh, like yeah, that. And those shows kind of set the stage for that formula. Oh, yeah. Those shows really set the stage for it. And I was originally invested in season 1 of the Flash, and I thought at the time, oh, maybe they're just working Barry up to becoming his own man. Maybe by season 2 or 3. He'll, go on his own adventures. And then by the time I think I bowed out at the end of season 3 or season 4, I can't remember. I just realized they're never going to let this concept go. It
became Team Flash effort. And every bad
guy. Oh, I hated that.
Speedster
I was just like,
powers almost. And, yeah, it was good.
Nick, do you think that they're going to do you think that this Superman Legacy movie is going to be a jump off point, and DC is going to try to do like what Marvel's done with the Avengers and just start introducing people, introducing characters, see which ones stick, and then they're gonna, make these Avengers type?
I don't see that one's hard to pinpoint. And I'm worried. That's what I'm worried about. This movie is that it's going to be an ensemble movie because you got
the only thing that makes me think it's
you got Guy Gardner who's in there. You got Hawkgirl who's in there. And keep in mind, I do like these characters. And from what I've seen on some of the appearances, I do like some of the appearances. But it's just one of these things where they need to get the core Superman story right. It's kind of like when the MCU started with Iron Man. Yeah. They got Iron Man right. And they're like, okay, well, now that we got Iron Man right, we also have the Incredible Hulk. We have Thor. They were Captain America. They got to get these things right before you do bigger casts and ensembles. And also before you bring all these other characters into it. They're already making it these big stories, and we need to have a smaller, more personal Superman story. So we're basically, we learn nothing from Zack Snyder, basically. Because if you look, that should have been the template. And I'm not even saying that as to throw more shade for the millionth time at Zack Snyder, but you should look at that as a life lesson. Look what happens when you try to rush into doing a universe. They thought, here's Superman. Oh, here's Batman, right? Oh, here's the Justice League. And, you'd have some Snyder heads and even some DC heads who are not Snyder heads. Like, oh, well, they don't need no introduction. Yeah, for you, they don't need no introduction. But guess what? For the mass audience, a lot of these heroes absolutely do need an introduction. And they decided that they wanted to sprint. They weren't trying to play catch up. They were trying to sprint to catch up to where Marvel was. And it backfired in their face tremendously. That should have been the template of how not to do a universe. And we're already doing that. And then there's
the only thing that makes me think, well, before you get into that, is the only thing that makes me think that this is not necessarily going to be a big ensemble film, and is because James Gunn has kept this thing under such wraps, and he's very much controlled what's come out about the movie. There was one leak finally that came out. I guess it was a couple of toys of characters that were in the film. And he was asked about it, and he said, that's not that big of a deal. They're not that... He basically made it... I'm paraphrasing, but basically made it sound like they're not that big of a part of the film. And a bunch of them were the ones that we've been complaining about them being all these superheroes that are in this movie. Yeah. So I'm thinking that there is something to all these cameos, or these characters not being such a team-up, but it's just cameos, possibly.
I really hope so.
I wonder if we're not getting like some montage somewhere of something like... I wonder if the movie's going to start out like Superman's been Superman for a while, and maybe he's going to give us like a flashback of the last couple of years where he's worked with all these other superheroes and done these things, and maybe he's just still trying to find, there's going to be something that's going to lead into, and I need to figure this out about my life now instead, because something I didn't think about before, or something I'm been found out now that was changed my entire worldview. But it clearly feels like he's going into this with a much lighter not comedic, but lighter Donner-esque.
It does look lighter. I do like that aspect. I do like that crypto's in there. I do like that there's actual color to the suit and that the colors are not muted. I'll give them that. The color's still awful. The scales on the suit are awful. I do like how Superman is tall. He's got the curl. And the lady who they picked, what's her name, to play Lois Lane? She does look like a Lois Lane. So
Yeah, she does.
I'll give credit where it's due. It looks like they may have even got like a really good dream casting even for Lois Lane. I just need to see how she acts. If she acts like it, they may have nailed it with Lois Lane. And I would like to say, hey, look, they got this right. I would love to be able to say it. And yes, I will definitely be seeing that Superman movie opening. I'm sure, Tom, you and I will we'll be talking about it in July.
I hope it's not this cheesy, but yes, I was kind of getting along these lines where, yeah, the movie might start off with something like this, but hopefully it's not.
You know, if it's that cheesy, I will not complain. For me, I like my Superman with the big cheesy Americana
scratch. Yeah,
smile.
that's me, Superman. I bet you're wondering how I got here. I can't stand to fly.
I would love.
I'm not that naive.
Well, Nick, you mentioned crypto. We're supposed to get. Is Supergirl going to be in the Superman movie? Because we were
she just has a cameo that I understand. I don't know how much.
Because we were supposed to get a Supergirl Women of Tomorrow based on the Tom King.
Still getting that. That's going to be a separate film, and that's a
crypto was in.
Yes, so
I'm wondering,
the dog will
are
probably
they
be
going to
in
do?
both. The dog will probably be in both, and also to that storyline, that Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. They're trying to play some revisionist history, like that was some high in demand story. It was not. It was not. Go to your local comic store, any store that you know for a fact sells back issues. Those issues are in the clearance bin. They are in the freaking clearance bin. That did not sell well. It did not sell well. The only people who bought it are the people because for some reason there's an audience out there, small one of course, that buys anything that has Tom King's name, and you can ask them how they feel about it. Like, you know what? I don't know. I don't understand what just happened, but it was a masterpiece. Right. That's the Tom King audience for y'all. That's the Tom King. Yeah, the trade sold well once it became because I see Neil mention in the comments. Once it mentioned that there was going to be a movie. Yeah, because of course that's when the speculators market ahead. Like, oh, hey, look, they're going to be making a movie on this. We might as well see what's going on here. So that's why. But initially that trade was not something that took off. It wasn't like when you go to a store and you look at like the trades that sell well, it wasn't selling like, let's just say for a good recent American comic that's actually sold well, not because of a movie announcement or even movie adaptation had already come out. The Last Ronin has been selling well as a trade because it is a great story. And it's also an accessible story because even if you are not deeply into comics, you can be like, oh, hey, here's this cool comic. I could jump in and out. If I like it, I can go further wherever direction I want. The Last Ronin is probably the only American trade in the last few years that has continued to consistently sell. And that's not a manga, and that's not Batman. Even Batman has tanked, and that Batman has suffered the Tom King formula as well. That's a separate. Ever since Tom King, Batman has really not recovered.
Yeah, there's some of the people that are in his roster of creatives that really.
And King is one of them.
And King is numero uno. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, but I mean, I mean, really, the point is that Variety leaves out the biggest point in this article, which is sad because if they hadn't, this would actually be a pretty well written and researched article. But they overlook the elephant in the room. They keep stepping over it like it's not even there. And it's like, how can you keep avoiding the obvious? You keep broaching it. You keep approaching certain things. You say things weren't well received. You say things didn't work out well, but you don't actually get into the why. So Andre will really break that down as we kind of have here too as well. But we'll see what he has to say in his video that's upcoming either later tonight or tomorrow morning. But Joe Pat says with $4.99, in the last few days, I've heard something going around that's supposed to be top secret Looney Tunes movie in production. Anyone else hear about this? No. I did hear that Daffy and Porky movie finally got a distribution date, though. It's like early next year, but I have not heard about I mean, actually, I vaguely remember there's supposed to be some top secret movie into production, but I have no idea what it is. I just heard the rumor about something, and that's about it. And that was a while ago. So I wish I had more insight on it than that, though. Curious to see. But I know they had a new guy come in and take over the animation department, kind of like James Gunn took over DC. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've got something on the horizon. But speaking of the horizon in the future, since it looks like superhero movies are kind of on the outs and there's not much they can do about that, they do need to find a new hook. And some people seem to think it might be video game movies, and I just don't see that happening because we've had the testing ground for that now. And a few of them work out, not so many of them do. So I think they're going to, again, be the exception and not the rule. But there is an article that just came out a few days ago from The Ringer that has an idea of what the rule might be. I'm curious what you guys think about it, especially you in the chat. The future of films may just be old movies. So if you guys got a few minutes, we'll go through this article real quick. Hopefully,
let's go. Let's do this.
Let me make this a little bit bigger. So
and big in it.
Make it a lot bigger.
Okay, baby. In late January, I visited Lincoln Center in the Upper West Side of Manhattan to watch an infamous, practically unstreamable film. The Lincoln is the hub of old guard, uptown prestige, and culture, and the headquarters of the New York Film Festival. On Saturday night at 8:45 prime time for pre-gaming for its night out, it's maybe the last place you'd expect to see 20-something socialites, yet the line outside the Walter Reed Theater on West 65th was full of them, braving the late winter cold and light rain for sold-out screening of Pier Paolo's, I'm going to fuck this up, Pasolini's 49-year-old Italian snuff film no less, Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom, modernized adaptation of Marquis de Sade's 18th century novel. The film is a critique of fascism that at one point featured graphic depictions of young, beautiful captives eating bowls of their own poo. There's very little in the way of arc of character development, and spoiler alert for anyone who had other plans Saturday night, the film ends abruptly following the sadistically gleeful laughter of the prisoners. Far from blockbuster fare. Yeah, but this crowd was not one I would have recognized from 10 years earlier, when I hit sparsely attended weeknight showings of Antonioni or Emery or Godard, with mostly older moviegoers who drank coffee or dozed off. The Lincoln Center crowd was full of nerds like me, for sure. Bespectacled, wearing beanies or key hips, and holding dog-eared paperbacks on their laps. But most of Salo's audience looked like they had taken the train down a few stops from Columbia. They sat in a large, diverse group and sipped on cans of wines or beer, huddling and talking excitedly with mouthfuls of popcorn before the lights went down. After which they were wrapped through the entire film. It was surprisingly and completely absurd. As a culmination of change I noticed developing over the past decade, the types of number of repertory films being shown are changing, as are the types of people attending them since the pandemic. I've heard that oft-repeated narrative that fewer movies are being released in theaters. Movie theaters are dying out in an unprecedented clip. And these are harbingers of streaming ultimately killing the movie-going experience. But it didn't feel that way that night at Lincoln Center. It felt like I was part of something, a culture or a phenomenon. Both a random event and surprisingly coherent evolutionary step in burgeoning movement. Burgeoning? Okay, thank you. Movement. I wondered whether this was my anecdotal experience in New York or a larger shift that could portend future for movie going across the country. There's a word for these screenings of old movies, repertory. At a base level, it's defined as a place where things can be found or discovered. The term is often associated with a stage, a repertory theater. A resident company regularly puts on a staple rotation of old plays, but in the cinema, it essentially means revival, which often takes the shape of showing old movies in theaters, a practice that is almost as old as cinema itself. It comes in many forms. Those Wednesday screenings of Godard, a showing of Heat with Michael Mann and Al Pacino and Robert De Niro on hand for Q&A, a Stop Making Sense dance party at NYMAX Theater, an outdoor summer screen presentation of Ferris Bueller's Day Off in Tompkins Park. Of all that and more is repertory. So yeah, this is kind of the part I really wanted to get into the heart of here. The challenge.
I'm still mentally stuck on the prisoners eating bowls of shit.
You just got to go watch that movie now, I guess.
No,
and you'll be like, why the fuck did I watch this movie?
No, I'm never ever gonna watch anything like that. Call me a prude. So. I don't give a fuck.
Don't worry about it. The challenge that has always faced repertory cinema is access. Perception that if people have an easier, more convenient way to see a film, they will take it. Going to the movies is a hassle and expense, no matter where you live. If your goal is to take a piece of content, why subject yourself to that schlep when you could simply watch it at your own pace, in peace, at home? From virtually its inception, Repertory has faced existential threats from a series of at-home viewing options: television, cable, VCRs, DVD players, today's digital streaming apps. But each time Repertory Cinema has provided its resilience, its demand, and its financial viability in spite of these inventions. Its survival speaks to the essence of cinema and what many want out of it, not to simply consume a piece of content, but get something deeper, richer, and more communal. Now, it just goes on more and more, and I think that's kind of the main point of this piece that I wanted to get to, at least for where it comes from our perspective here and the stuff that we cover. So I'm sure you all have noticed that in the last few years and months, a lot of classic films have been doing really well in theaters. In fact, you proved me very wrong on the Phantom Menace revival from a few years back, 6. I thought it didn't do that well, and you showed me the numbers where it did much better than I thought it did. Mm-hmm. But on that note, yeah, I've noticed this too, and especially with the lack of newer films in theaters. I mean, to be able to get to go see a movie like Jaws or something like that on the big screen is a big deal, and I can tell the difference in the audience, in the energy and the excitement. And I think it's because we know we can trust some of these films, or even if it's a film we may not have seen before, if it's a film that's a classic experience. I mean, I remember a lot of people for the first time seeing The Exorcist when it was re-released in theaters. They had never seen it on video or television, but they finally saw it then. And, you know, I think that would probably have been the most effective way to see it at that point. So what do you guys think? Do you think that this is going to be something that's going to become more of a norm going forward here, like it used to be back in the day? Because, I mean, for those who don't know, before the age of video, re-releases in theaters was kind of a norm. Like, you get them every couple of years sometimes for bigger movies. But I'm curious what you guys think about all this.
This is interesting. I'll say that it's definitely interesting, and I do believe a lot of older movies have rewatchability, and especially nowadays with a lot of the current movies getting a lot more shoddier with CG. You know, I talked to, like, let's just say younger workers in my place of employment, and they're definitely noticing that. And movies that they would have never given a shot, let's just say 5 years ago, they're kind of giving a shot now because they're saying the oversaturation of the green screen and all that, and start to appreciate movies where there's actual people there, you know, throughout the movie. There's actual scenes and actual locations. So I think if this, you know, is going to be the future, I don't think it'll be something that'll be here to stay per se, but I think it'll definitely take up a chunk of time. But it's definitely a way of going forward, sometimes going back, or maybe we need a reminder of what we once had, and hopefully that could be the thing that lights the spark to pave a path forward for a new wave of filmmaking, because we don't have like a big, like, outside of not having big major stars, we don't have like a wave of, like, you know, directors, because there was a once upon a time where we had like a who's who of like big name directors who wasn't just the actors. We had like a big name of writers and directors as well. Now we have a bunch of faceless faces. Obviously, I know there's exceptions, but that's a problem. These shouldn't be exceptions. We should be having a hordes of this, and all we have is exceptions to the rule now. So who knows? Maybe this needs to be a necessary step to take a step back to move to the front. So we shall see.
6, what do you think?
This is not going to. I just don't have time to go to the movies. It's, you know, it's like a 2-3 hour commitment, even though my theater is, you know, maybe a 10-15 minute drive. It's just something that I don't have time to do. And so if I can stay at home, I'm an introvert anyway. So if I can stay at home and pop something on, but see, I don't mind. I'm not, you know, really into the big screen and having, you know, the best viewing experience. I don't have to go to the the IMAX and see something. I can watch a movie on my phone and be just as happy. So this will not affect me, and I don't really see the movie studios as slowing down enough to make this, and with movie theaters closing, I don't know. I don't see this as being really going to happen.
You don't think so?
Mm-mm.
Well, we'll find out, I guess. Only one way to know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I do know that I have been hearing from inside people up to and including people like script doctors that, productions are ramping up. Next year will be more like normal-ish as far as the releases go. But I still wonder, going off of our last story, unless there's stuff that gets people interested in it. Because I do feel like, despite what you just said, Six, there is, I think, enough people who do enjoy going to the theater.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people who don't have physical media and don't have every streaming service. And I think that's where they kind of have inadvertently been pushed back into this world of, this movie's out in the theaters. I haven't seen it in a while. It's not on streaming. Maybe I'll go see it. I saw that a lot with The Thing. And a couple other films that came out in revivals in the last couple of years here, to where it was like, a lot of people were just like, wow, okay. I can't believe this many people are interested in going and seeing an old movie that you can watch at home on 4K. Because I'm kind of like in between that, Six. I'm like you, like I have a lot of these movies already in 4K. I can watch them at home on my big screen.
And a giant TV, yeah.
On a giant TV and Dolby Atmos, surround sound, or whatever setting the sound is of the soundtrack. But anyway, point being, I got probably a much better setup than most places I'm going to go to. Mm-hmm. So there is very little motivation for me to go out and do that outside of the communal experience, and if there is a little bit more of a premium experience to it, but depending on the film. Now, like if Ninja Turtles had come anywhere near me when it got revived here a couple years back for the anniversary, I would have went to see it, but that came out right in the middle of pandemic, so it hardly went anywhere, and nobody really got a chance to see it in theaters. Same thing with like if I could get a chance to see like maybe Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street, something like that, I would.
Okay, but how other than TMNT, when's the last time, which you said you didn't go to anyway, but when's the last time you went to see like
a revival film?
Yeah.
Jaws, I saw in 3D last year, I think it was.
Oh wow. Yeah, that is your favorite movie.
Yeah. I mean, and
Groundhog Day. I went and saw we saw Groundhog Day recently.
Oh, that's such
that was
a good
cool.
movie.
Yeah, we saw it at the theater.
I know I've seen another one here in the last couple of years, but I'm trying to remember what it was. But no, I will go to them once in a while if I'm with it, if I have the time, if I have the money, if I'm within a decent distance. That to me is the bigger problem than just the hassle of going to a theater in general that some people have, right? But again, it just all depends. And I'm also of the mindset is like, I would jump at a chance to see a movie that I'm not a big a fan of in like a 35 millimeter print presentation than I would to go see just a revival in a standard theater that's just showing a digital version of it. Because that digital version they're showing is the same thing I got at home, right? Mm-hmm. So like if I got a chance to go see something in a 35 millimeter print, that's a little different experience. Again, it all depends on the experience, and it depends on the individual and what they feel like it's worth to them. So that's why I'm not going to sit here and say, well, you're wrong, Six, or anything like that. I wouldn't anyway, but I mean,
well, no, I mean, because I'm just expressing my opinion anyway.
Exactly. But I mean, at the same time, I'd be like, I don't think that, I think there's going to be a variance to it. I'm curious what people think, you guys out there in the chat, especially, like, is this something that you like to do? I know a lot of people also went to see like the revivals of Nightmare Before Christmas. That's why they keep bringing that out again every year. I know the revival of Hocus Pocus did really well like 2 years ago. So yeah, I mean, Disney used to build their whole vault library on that whole thing. I mean, if anything, that's the best example I can give people for this, because they were the ones who did it for the longest after the rest quit doing it. Like that was Disney's whole bread and butter, was re-releasing these movies every 7 years to theaters, because there was a new crop of kids to introduce them to, and then their parents would drag them to the 101 Dalmatians and Cinderella and so on and so forth. But yeah. But no, I'm curious to see how it rolls. I'm really curious to see if we don't get anything new, like if something doesn't come along, like I was saying earlier on the comic book side of things, like if there isn't something to come in and replace comic book movies, what is going to happen? Are we going to be in this weird, wacky world where we'll see the top 5 films. And the reason I wonder if this will happen, Six, and I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong or right in that respect, is what I was kind of more so getting at, is that I'm not going to prejudge it because I would never have believed 10, 15 years ago that Fleetwood Mac and Michael Jackson and Prince would be popping up in the top 5 or 10 on the Billboard chart still this many years later, because I think the bigger problem is that music sucks so bad now. And kids are diving more into classic music than they are newer music. So unless like Kanye West or Taylor Swift has a new album out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I would like for these revival film. I would love that if that became a thing. If I hope that this works out and becomes popular, and I could see for nostalgia, you know, getting together with my friends and making a night of it. I could see myself doing that I remember seeing like Gladiator. I saw Gladiator in the theater multiple times with a friend of mine. She and I were both in lust.
I'm kind of surprised
movie.
they didn't bring that one out again before
And
this.
so yeah, so that would be a fun, you know, way to reminisce over it. So I can see the appeal. It's just I also see so many people complaining about the price of movies.
Right.
So
well, the beauty of some of these revivals is they are cheaper, right? Like that's the upside too. Is like
how much cheaper? But
most of the time they're only like $5 or whatever.
Ticket.
Yeah.
It's the popcorn and the candy and the pop.
Right.
You know, stuff that you can't fit in your purse.
Well, all the ones I've checked into, unless there's some special premium involved with it, they're all like $5. Like they're cheap.
I don't know. If you have $5 for a movie, you have $8 for a movie.
True. I'm not going to say you don't. I mean, I think Jaws, I paid $7.50, I think, for the tickets, but that's really low end. But I was 3D. So it was like you're paying a premium on top of the $5 or whatever. But I mean, there's some of these things where you'll have like a Q&A and stuff. So then you're paying for both the movie and getting to actually see, like, you know, they brought up the Heat one in that article.
Wait,
like
what do you mean a Q&A?
Like you get to see like the director and they'll sometimes in certain places they'll actually have them come out on the stage. Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah.
So I mean, if you would live in bigger cities and stuff like that, you'll have that luxury, right? To where like if you're in New York or LA or wherever, maybe even Chicago, sometimes they'll go around like and do this stuff where you'll actually have the director and a couple of stars come out and they'll do like a 10, 15, 20 minute or more Q&A after or before the movie. So you even get that premium sometimes in there added. And sometimes they'll add a little something special to it just to kind of like with Jaws, it was 3D. I mean, of course, the most famous of all of these re-releases has to be the Star Wars Special Edition, right? Which dominated that whole idea of not only you're going to get to go see the Star Wars movies in theaters again, but I'm adding all these new bells and whistles to them. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was incredible.
The experience of that was more incredible than the movies themselves. I mean, the movies are great, but like in hindsight, what they did to the movies is unforgivable. But it's like at the time when that happened, like, yeah, though that was crazy because that was when I learned that people still gave a shit about Star Wars besides me. Because I was always, I was the one kid in school that would have like Star Wars stuff. And all my friends, when I was even younger still, they'd trade me all kinds of stuff for Star Wars stuff because they didn't care about Star Wars anymore. So I'd trade them whatever. And I had all kinds of stuff, Star Wars, just by doing it that way.
All my friends were into Star Wars.
They were when we were younger.
I even still remember what I was wearing when we went to special edition. I remember where we sat. Yeah, that was in special editions. That's my go-to edition because it's George's edition. So
yeah,
I know you hate it, but I love it. And that's okay.
Yeah, more so what he did. I mean, that's the problem is all three of them have issues with him. And that's my problem. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
And I wouldn't care if he just let both versions be out there. Like, that's one thing I'll give Ridley Scott. But anyway, we'll see how this rolls. Let's see what you guys are saying. Everything Burns sends in 35 South African rands and says, when are studios going to realize that talent is the problem and the creatives they favor are the impediment to making a profit? Hopefully soon. They might be starting to realize this.
Yeah, the talent needs to, I don't know. I was going to say they need to shut their pie holes, but at the same time, they have the right to say whatever they want. But they don't have a
They
right
do.
to pick the consequences of what they say.
That's the thing. Is like, I mean, so does most anyone else, but a lot of these people, they just silently support what they support, and they just go on with their business. Especially if you're, because you got to look at it this way. I mean, I kind of have I agree with you, Six, that any individual should be able to speak their mind no matter what. But at the same time, if you're somebody who's representing a brand, then you do have to keep that in mind. And this goes for Gina Carano as well, right? But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and play the whataboutism game, but I mean, she didn't start doing that stuff until it had already been something that her other co-stars were doing, but that's still not the point. I mean, had she never even done any of that stuff, honestly, she probably never would have got fired. So it's just, look, do I agree with the fact that it happened? No. But at the end of the day, if you look at it from a broad perspective of, and I do the same thing as being part of Midnight's Edge, I have to keep this shit in mind too. It's not just me, right? It's Andre, and it's not just Andre, it's our families and, anybody who relies on us is, so it's like, we got to keep that shit in mind as we're representing a brand. And you got to kind of do that sometimes in a way. Unfortunately, right now we are in such a deep, deep, deep political world that I've never lived in before. Now, I'm not saying it's never existed before, because I know, like, back in the day, you had the mob involved with politics and all kinds of other crazy shit. So I'm sure things were rough and tough, and I've heard stories. But as far as my
it's never
lifetime,
affected you and your job. It's
right. In my lifetime, though, this is new. Yeah. And this has been happening since pretty much the Obama era. And I'm not blaming him or per se, but I'm just saying that it's been something that was like, there was something stirred up in America. And ever since then, politics has just become this thing that I have not been able to separate from everything else in my life. Right. And that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's become a
that's
problem
why
for
I
everybody.
stay anonymous, because I want to be able to say whatever I want and not get fired.
See, and in that aspect, you have that somewhat of a luxury. I mean, it's not a luxury because you can't be yourself necessarily, but you're also able to be anonymous, unlike somebody like Gina Carano.
Right.
Like, so, or me.
Right.
For
She
that
got
matter.
done dirty.
Yeah. But at the same time, I agree. I think that if you're representing a brand, which in most cases is yourself as a musician, a movie star, an athlete, what have you, and you need to keep in mind, as Michael Jordan pointed out before, even Republicans buy Nikes, right? Yep. So I got to keep everybody happy. And that's not saying you have to agree with horrendous things, but that's what some of these folks are trying to draw a parallel to. And it's like, no, everybody's got to eat though, right? Like, regardless of how you feel about them,
right?
At the end of the day. And yeah, this cancel culture shit has just gone too far. So yeah, I think the answer to your question is, I think we're hitting that road now. The way this election rolls out is going to really, really decide how the future of things go here. It's going to be an interesting few months leading into this. Next year is going to be a doozy one way or another. Because either way, you're just going to have ultimate rejection from one side or the other.
Yep.
It is going to be complete and utter chaos for a while until one side finally learns to back down and just give up on the fight. And I'm just going to tell you right now, there's one side that's fighting for their kids and what they perceive as their souls. And there's other people who are just fighting for feelings. So let's just keep that in perspective. Because there's a reason why there's been a big turn in the country in the last year or so, because this has gone beyond what we talk about here on our stage. Right?
Yeah, in a normal, more sane world, these types of conversations probably would have never been even a thought as far as a Midnight's Edge show, but because they injected the serum of politics into almost every facet of our life, we can't get out of it. And
I can't imagine it being this bad since the 60s, basically. It'd probably be the last time I remember it being, that I could imagine it being like this. Not remember, because I wasn't alive then, but imagine it being like this.
So, yeah. And I'm sure this, and trust me,
how did that turn out? Let's go back and remember how that turned out. Oh, let's see. There was a president that got killed. There was endless riots.
Yeah.
There was a big fuck fest in a field. I mean, yeah. And then we got disco and cocaine out of the whole deal. Vietnam.
There are worse trade-offs that have been had. So if that were the
well, we could have done without the Vietnam
forward,
part, but
yeah, I agree on that. I agree.
Moon
But as
landing
far
and
as the
Watergate
disco
happened,
and the disco and the coke is what I'm alluding to. But yes, you're right.
Yeah. And then you had Watergate, but that was and then the moon landing. That kind of put a capper on that decade, I imagine. But anyway, we got Day Tripera sending in 50. Is this Argentinian? Is it? How do you say it? I can't remember now. I'm pretty sure it's Argentinian though. It says, I used to go to movies 10 times a year on average. This year I went only once for a Back to the Future screening. See, there you go. Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
I know a lot of people who went to Back to the Future 2 for 2015, and then they had Back to the Future Day this year. And I know like a lot of theaters will do every year, they'll do like Alien Day back before Disney owned it. And it was easier to get their hands on it.
I know, ever since I said that I wouldn't go, I keep thinking of movies that, I would go see that. Oh, I would go see that one.
Well, I think there is that exception to everybody. Like, I mean, I get it. The guy who wrote the article, he's an artsy fartsy critic guy. So yeah, he's going to see shit like that. But like literal shit like that. But I mean, look, you put Goonies out in theaters, you put the original Beetlejuice, like I just said, I can't believe that Gladiator Part 1 isn't in theaters right now to help promote Gladiator 2 coming out. Like, that would be the smartest thing. That's something that I can't believe, that synergy. Because that's what I used to love, is when I knew we would be getting a movie, like, oh, good, they're finally going to re-release all the old stuff that we haven't been able to get for a while.
Yeah.
Because that was usually the key, the time to do that. I remember when the first Spider-Man movie came out, we got the 1960s TV series on DVD. We got a bunch of the 2000 or 1990s, series on DVD and stuff. And the only thing I think we didn't get around that era was the old TV movies. But I mean, same thing with the Hulk. They would release all kinds of shit.
Yep, I remember.
But then they stopped doing that stuff. It's like, why? It's like, what? You don't want us to remember the past? We celebrate the past, and that gets us geared up and ready for the new one.
They don't want our money.
I swear sometimes that's the case.
If you have told me that statement a few years ago, I would never believe that what Slick said. But the thing is, I do believe those words more than ever. Because I was watching someone mentioned it to a stream as a super chat. I think it was on a Geeks and Gamers morning stream. And so it said, I feel like I can't prove it, but I feel like they're trying to condition younger people into thinking of this idea that it's okay to constantly lose this amount of money because someone else will take care of it. So they're just kind of conditioning people into that mindset. Oh, don't worry about it. It'll take care of itself. And someone will take care of it. That it's okay to, lose like this and just to, constantly be in the gutter like this. So that's what another way is why this stuff won't be let go, is because it's the status quo and they don't want that to change. It's the whole just as nothing's supposed to ever change, but they want to act like things are supposed to change. It's the illusion.
I think I said it best yesterday morning on the morning show when I said, here's the thing I hope the studios are starting to realize, and some of the other folks outside of the studios and in all these businesses and areas where DEI and all this shit has infiltrated. We are basically at this point now where they have been fed this shit for a decade. Because what is the line they've been fed? They've been fed that if you do what we say, if you do A, B, and C, you will get A, B, and C to show up for your movies and shows, leaving out the obvious. And that was that you're going to lose the original fan base that you had there, or at least a majority of it, right? They didn't tell that to these people. And I hope by now they're realizing that that's what the grift is, right? It's like you can do that, but you're risking losing the original fan base, because they won't do it in a way that would actually naturally, make sense to any of these franchises. Because it's not like Star Wars has never been diverse. That's a great example. Just like Star Trek, they've always both been diverse, especially Star Trek. But to add in this idea that you need to double down on that or add even more to that shit and dumb it down for a fucking crowd that isn't a fan of this shit is what lost the audience. And they hopefully have learned that by now. because
Now
they
we'll
they
find
sold them
out.
this false bill of sale that you're going to get all these new fans that are going to show up between all the diversity that you're putting in there and scaring off. And that was the other thing, is like they did get scared for scaring us off at first, but these same fucking DEI fuckers fed them full of shit. Right? They're like, well, we're losing the original audience. It's like, don't worry, we knew this was going to happen, but that's fine. You want to lose all these racist bigots, because then these other people will feel it's safe to be a part of this franchise now. That's the way they sold it to these people.
Well, yeah, they want to get the. No, it's one thing if you try this type of thing. Not saying that you should, but if you just pretend, to rationalize the idea of it, you tried it. And then you give enough years, you've given enough time, you've given enough money, and it's not worked. And rather than just finally like say, okay, you know what, we tried this, we really tried. We tried and then some. This isn't resonating. They won't accept that. They clearly won't admit defeat over this, because to them it's, if we're admitting defeat, then the people we're ideologically against we're right, and we can't have them be right about anything. So, and that's what they get for, once again, these type of people, they live in a bubble. Anytime you have someone who says some trash along the lines of, like, the modern audience are reflecting the world that we live in today, usually they come from somewhere like New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, and the world doesn't exist outside of those metropolitan cities for them. Yeah, it's insane that we're dealing with this type of personality, bubble thinkers.
Hollywood needs to go back to being obsessed with making money and
cocaine.
and cocaine.
Please,
and
please,
not,
give them lots
with,
of it.
Not obsessed with, with
They need to re-embrace being whores.
Yes,
well, it's like, why
please.
does all, because everybody has their cause. They're, like when Joaquin Phoenix won an Oscar, he got up and he made this, speech about the treatment of animals, and which of course I'm an animal lover, so I was like all about that. My cause, if I ever won an Oscar, I'd probably go up and I'd talk about adoption for dogs and cats and stop breeding. That would be my cause. But it's like everybody in Hollywood has the same fucking cause.
It's kind of like how journalists
DEI.
back in the day, and I don't know how much you know about journalism, but I at least have like some surface level knowledge. It used to be like considered like a heinous act if you all had the same exact message of what's being said on, like on columnist pieces. Now that's the expectation, that you all have to have the same marching orders. When you look at all these publications, obviously it doesn't help that a lot of them are owned by the same companies, but that used to be a thing back then, is, hey, when you're writing something, you tell a story. It is about having an opinion piece. And if you do, make it your own thing. Don't copy someone else. It's kind of like the equivalent of copying someone else's homework. Now that's the encouragement now, is what everyone else is saying is what you have to say. So that you don't need, even if you're getting a scientific piece, you don't truly know how that person feels, because they're giving marching orders of what they have to say versus who knows what they might actually be feeling. And that's like weird. Like and that's something that used to kind of intrigue me about journalism until I realized how crooked journalism has gone. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not stepping into that field, because if the expectation is you have to fold for this in order to break through, then that's not my thing. Because that was the closest I ever thought about going to college in my life, was for that. But once I saw how crooked the field was, and I thought it was crooked back then. I thought it was crooked. Now
you should have ended that, and that is why I didn't go to college.
Well, in the last, since I've been, kind of hanging around Midnight's Edge and looking stuff up and finding, fact-finding missions and finding links and stuff like that, I've noticed that it is getting harder to find the actual truth on things. Because the media is not, they're hiding.
They're involved there.
They have confirmation bias.
They collude.
Yeah, they have a collusion of confirmation bias, to where if they say something, no matter what, even if we know there's video evidence out there, like we can catch them in full 4K saying something completely different, they will try to erase that from memory
why we
by
save
deleting
our receipts.
and getting rid of every bit of evidence they can of it, and then they'll change Wikipedia and everything else to reflect what the narrative is.
Yeah.
And this is why I think the Wayback Machine was fucking attacked here not too long ago. I don't know if you guys heard about this. My kid was actually keying me into this. I did hear about the Internet Archive, not the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive going down. And he was telling me about how it was a bunch of hackers that went after it. And I'm sitting here thinking, who has any real incentive to destroy the past right now?
Obviously, people who are obsessed with ideology because they think everything about the past either doesn't exist before they're born, or B, if it did exist, it was automatically bad because it's considered tradition. Anything that has the words old or tradition, they feel like they have to destroy and create in their own modernized.
Well, and I grew up in a world
image.
and I grew up in a world of what I would consider fluid history, right? Like we had history, but as we learned new things, we updated them, right? From the time I was a little kid to the time I graduated high school, guess what? We learned that dinosaurs weren't reptiles. They were actually more descendants, or birds were their descendants, I should say. And they probably had feathers. And now we're almost positive they had feathers, right? So that's 40 years of change in just knowledge. And guess what? I don't know if what they teach now in school, because they don't teach half this shit anymore. They don't teach science. They don't teach math. They don't teach writing. They don't teach arithmetic. They don't teach English.
They do, but they teach very slanted versions of.
They teach social studies, but it's a very slanted version of that too. I mean, civics. Do they even teach civics anymore? Because I swear, if half these kids actually understood civics, exactly. Because I swear, if half these kids did, then they would know how stupid it is to have a sign that says "Gays for Palestine." I mean, seriously.
And we're struck.
No, I said it in a way that I think they could think it's a positive.
Sorry. Diddy did not go.
I know, but the P word.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, let's get beyond that before we do get in trouble. Goddess of Whim sends in a $5 super chat here. Thank you, Goddess of Whim, for also being a wrench as always. Says, I love going to theater, and unfortunately, there isn't anything I want to see. My must-see calendar had 3 movies on it. Yeah, this is my problem this year, Goddess. The only movie I'm looking forward to between now and the end of the year, I think, is Nosferatu, unless I'm forgetting something.
Wait, say that again?
The only movie I'm looking forward to between now and the end of the year is Nosferatu, unless I'm forgetting something.
Gladiator 2.
Well, for you.
War of Rohirrim.
Okay. Well,
I don't know if I'm looking forward to that, but I will see it.
That's good that you have something. For me,
I'm probably going to be.
I'm going with Sonic 3.
Oh yeah, Sonic 3. I haven't seen Sonic 2 yet.
I am curious about Nosferatu since Robert Eggers is directing it, so we'll see about how that goes. That it might be the few times that's a remake that I'm kind of curious about.
And it looks good from the trailer. That's the thing.
It did. Like, it did look good from the trailer.
So we'll have to see. I mean, Sonic 3 could be really good. I mean, the trailer played really well for that before Venom this weekend.
The trailer was
the theater I was
perfectly timed because it was right at the point where people were like, okay, when's this trailer coming out? You're starting to get annoying with this. And then they unloaded the trailer and it got those people who were starting to get maybe a little irritated. Now all of a sudden they're excited all over again. And the way they brought in Shadow into that trailer, they played into it perfectly. And the fact that it comes in on Christmas weekend, that movie is going to, I have a thing. It's definitely smoky. Oh, yeah. It's another thing, too. Keanu Reeves as Shadow. That movie's going to do very well at the box office.
Well, if it comes out the same weekend as Nosferatu, I guess Shadow would be saying, Nosferatu?
Oh, that's funny.
I'm gonna kill you, Sonic. Because I'm a bad guy.
Did you see the photos of Nicolas Cage in the Spider-Man noir suit?
Yeah, I seen a few of those. It kind of has me like, okay, maybe it'd be cool. Because I was obviously not a fan of the Spider-Verse stuff, but
yeah. But I mean, Nick Cage in the suit, I think that speaks to you and me just because it's Nick Cage. I got a suit.
Spider-Man does whatever Spider-Man can. He's probably singing that the whole time he's in the suit. Look out!
Here comes
the cage man.
Noir. Yeah.
Noir. He's in black and white and white and black and black and white and white and black and white. And a little bit of gray and some more black and white.
Oh man, that's good.
In the day or the night.
Such a dork.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
They were like, Nick, we'll put the sound effects in later. Just let me do my thing.
Oh man, that's good. Seriously, that's really good.
In reality, the web should come out of my ass. Very scientific.
Wow. That's wild.
Oh, he could. Jason Webster has a question for us. What's our favorite classic film? Well, I think if I answered Jaws, that's too easy. So I guess what would you consider a classic
it's your
film?
favorite. It's your favorite.
It's classic.
I mean, we're talking like pre-70s, I guess, classic. I mean, I guess I could go with that. I could. You guys can answer whatever, but just to be fair.
I would need specifics too, because you ask 5 people what a classic film is, you're gonna get several different definitions. But go ahead, take it away, 6.
The original King Kong.
Ooh, great film.
That's one of the very few black and white movies that I've ever seen, and I absolutely love that movie.
That's one of the ones I was thinking of going with too.
Well, I already took it, so you can't.
Dang it.
Well, you can take it. It just means that she got it first. Oh boy, you know.
You can have my sloppy seconds, Tom.
Oh, you know, this is gonna be a cliche one, but you know what? And it's probably it helps that I grew up with it. But I'm just gonna go with the very easy, very convenient. It's a Wonderful Life. I think it's
a good one.
Fantastic film. I call it a 10 out of 10 film.
I have never
I
seen
said
that
what
movie.
I said. I don't know if you'll like it. I mean, granted, you do seem to obviously have a very vast taste in movies, so maybe you'll at least understand it. I don't know if you'll have the same, I guess, you know, love and nostalgia that I have, you know, growing up for it. Well, I think you'll at least appreciate it. I think you'll at least appreciate the movie.
Isn't it kind of like how is it different from a Hallmark movie?
It's not. It's kind of like the
kind of a
proto
feel
Hallmark
good
movie. Sort of.
I would agree with Tom. It is kind of like a proto Hallmark movie, except
you'd
unlike
be
in the Hallmark
surprised-
movies, the characters in this movie I care about.
You'd be surprised though
Yeah,
once you
that's
watch it, especially if you haven't seen a lot of Frank Capra's films. You'll be able to see how much Frank Capra influenced the directors from the 80s. Like, It's a Wonderful Life, and I know this doesn't really make sense on its surface, but you see that, and you see the just direct connections between that and Gremlins and Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they feel like they're from the same kind of, like, if Frank Capra was still making movies in the 80s, he would have made those 2 movies.
Like, and I was not insulting It's a Wonderful Life by comparing it to Hallmark.
No, but it's
When
like,
I
it's a
say-
weird...
Finished. When I love Hallmark movies, Christmas Hallmark movies, because things work out nicely. You get everything wrapped up in a nice bow. People are generally kind to each other, and it's just it's a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling at the end, which is how I imagine It's a Wonderful Life to be. Is you get a nice,
And it's
warm, fuzzy feeling at the end.
you do get that in, and oh boy, did he have to go through, you know, some bad hard times to get to that point. It was a long, hard road for him to get there. So like, and the movie definitely, you know, it cuts deep. It cuts really deep. It gets really personal, and I feel like that's, you know, something that has been lost. Especially
That's what I was
going to
say
is that the personal feeling of, oh boy, this could go really bad for our main character. Like that suspense, that edge is even in an old film they had that. It's just like, holy crud, this is what stakes are like.
On the surface, yes, I could see like a Hallmarky comparison, and it does have some elements to it that are kind of proto Hallmarky. But like what Nick is saying, like below the surface level things, the things that you've seen a million times in every movie, like there's a different part of this movie that it does go kind of deep and dark and ask a lot of questions, and you can see why it's a movie that resonates beyond the years that it was out originally, because it did flop when it first came out, and the only reason people saw it growing up during Christmas time is because it was public domain because of some loophole. So like every little station from here to Kansas would show it, so everybody had seen it at that point. But then it just kind of gained this notoriety, and like I said, the influence that film specifically and Frank Capra had on the following generation of filmmakers, you can really see, especially those two films I said, but like just the type of storytelling he does, and that he's kind of ahead of his time. And I guess my choice then would be, if we're going to go with these kind of films ahead of its time, would be Citizen Kane. Because I mean, that movie still, it felt like it was 20 years ahead of its time as far as the editing, the pacing, the storytelling, the way it utilized special effects. And that's the thing, is people wouldn't even think of it as a special effects movie, but there's a hell of a lot of special effects in that movie. A lot of miniatures and other things that they use. So yeah, that'd be my choice besides King Kong. Then I guess I'd go with Citizen Kane. So you got some good ones there. Wonderful Life, Citizen Kane, and King Kong. Awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight this one because this
Night of
is
Living Dead's a
excellent.
classic. Yeah.
That's a close second for me. Love that movie.
And I think that will be one that you may see on the Classics and Retrospective channel at some point.
Oh.
Action Com says, speaking of oddballs, what the hell happened to Jim Carrey? You know, it's funny you mentioned this. We need to get Jim Carrey and Nicolas Cage together in a movie, which is funny because they have been in movies before and they are friends.
Yep.
Behind the scenes will be epic. This is what we need right now. And it's funny because you said this, because I said this yesterday when we were talking about the box office. I said, I noticed during the trailer that I just mentioned about Sonic 3, the reaction it got. Well, the big reaction was Jim Carrey. And I'm just sitting here going, man, the audience is reacting like this to him. They need to put him in a movie again. They need to let him loose.
But does he want to be in a movie again?
I don't know what he wants anymore, but if they could just let him do a straight up fucking comedy again, that's the kind of thing we need to get out of this rut right now. Somebody like him, or a Vince Vaughn, or one of those guys. Jim
Carrey was great with the physical comedy and the manic craziness and the letting loose, like being on 11.
I don't know. Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls is so fucking hilarious. I don't care what anybody says.
No, Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls is pure
the
cinema
fucking rhino
magic.
scene. I mean,
dude, did you see there's a clip at NYCC? Someone did that as a cosplay.
Yes.
I saw that.
I never seen my cousin cry so hard in my life as when we went to see that in the theater, and he's doing the, and he's like punching himself out and shit. My cousin fell out of the, he's rolling in the aisle, literally like crying and sobbing, trying to catch his breath. I'm like, are you going to be okay, dude? Do I got to take you to the hospital? He's like, no, this is just the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life.
Dude, I remember the first time I saw that, I straight up, I may have died and come back to life after watching that.
The miracle of birth.
I think the scene where he's in the tent with the guy and they both come out and they've both been spitting on each other. That was hilarious.
I remember
balls
that.
are showing. Bumblebee tuna.
Last I knew, he was painting, so I haven't kept up on him.
Chicago.
I won't forget when they had that giant monster truck.
Where do I know that word?
Show off his teeth as he does that big redonkulous smile.
Like I love. I mean, the first Ace Ventura is fine. It is what it is.
Oh, I love.
But fucking When Nature Calls was like beyond. The fucking, oh my god, it's the Monopoly guy.
That would be funny to see. That would be great. That'd be a good one to see in the theater.
Well, he's actually mentioned Ace Ventura 3 because Morgan Creek, who owns the rights, they've been trying to revive all of their IPs, and he did mention it. But I've been looking for this interview. I swear it was in Entertainment Weekly at the same time Ace Ventura came out. And he said in the interview, if I ever sign up to do an Ace Ventura 3, somebody kill me.
I remember that. You sent me looking for that clip, and I couldn't find it.
I've been looking for it and looking for it and looking for it. Because he said at that point, he goes, because that means if I've done Ace Ventura 3, and I'm paraphrasing here, he's like, if I've done that, or if I've come to that level, that means I've hit the end of the road. But I think it would kind of be just like, if he would do it now, I think it's right. Now, he was talking about like probably 5 years, 10 years after the deal. I mean, even he did Dumb and Dumber too.
Oh,
You know,
I
how
know.
many years?
Why did he do that?
I mean, it has its ups and downs. There's
But
things I like about it, but then you're right. It's also one of those movies like Beetlejuice, where it was like, did you really even need to do it now? Like, was there really a reason? I mean, you should have just left the original alone.
Yeah,
And I'm kind of glad he never did The Mask too, even though Son of Mask or whatever exists. I ignore it.
Yeah,
because
I pretend that doesn't exist either. For me, that's like that got memory hold.
Even Me, Myself, and Irene is a pretty good one, as nasty as it is.
Yeah.
Oh, Liar Liar is, that's
Oh,
him probably at his peak.
When
That's
he
his
threw
lair.
the shoe at the plane, was that a shoe?
What are you doing? I'm kicking my ass. Do you mind?
Yeah, that's
Is that true? It has to be.
And that was great because you still were able to get the crazy, like, on 11 physical comedy, but then you got to see him show off the emotional side of his acting and showing what happens when he's in a situation where he's not capable of getting what he wants, and showing he has to change who he is as a person, because underneath all that comedy there was a serious story there as a major point of the whole movie. And I thought that was great because it really showed you that he was more than just a one-trick pony. But then also, no, he's only did comedy. Then, of course, stuff like Truman Show had to come out. And
Oh, I love the Truman Show, though.
it's okay.
I love the Truman Show. Cable Guy,
Oh, I love Cable
But
Guy.
it depends. I gotta rewatch it. Anyway, Super Omicron. Yeah, Jim Carrey recently said this in an interview. I didn't actually see the interview, but I read it. He's like, I like that role of Jim Carrey, but then it ended. I think what he's talking about is Jim Carrey at his height. I don't think he really means like he's done, because if you've seen the Sonic trailer, I mean, he loves doing this character. You can tell, because he even does the dad now. So like he's playing two characters.
No, I'm glad he has come back to do all three of these movies, because
He's a nut bar,
definitely
but
added to it.
Yeah.
But he's good at it. He's absolutely nuts,
But,
even in real life. But he's good at it. So
and even Batman Forever. I'll still
love
stick up
Batman
from there.
Forever.
He's
I
not-
want to do a show on Batman Forever someday, just not like a Toxic Tuesday, but just a one-off show with people who love that movie, because I love Batman Forever, and I still got my girlfriend.
It's one of the most
Christmas.
classic comic
What?
version of Batman. It's probably the closest.
Dude. Oh, come on, that drive-through line. I'll take drive-through.
Well, that's
what
one
an
that I keep
intro.
reminding people, like, they can't give shit to the back credit card line, because it's like he said he's gonna get fucking drive-through in the last one. And you know what's funny is I was watching the Filmation Batman series. He has a credit card in in one of the episodes. So he actually has had it before Batman and Robin. But you were gonna say something, Six. What were you gonna say?
I don't remember,
I'm sorry.
but thank you. That's okay.
All right. Well, we got ActionCom here. Says Jim has gotten into alternative lifestyles and cult books. Yeah, I know. He's gotten really wacky and weird.
What's alternative lifestyle? What is that? Like what?
Like hippy dippy
specifically?
shit and holistic stuff. I don't know. He says, check out his speech to a university class. He's nuts. Yeah, that's what I mean. When I said he's a nut bar, I meant that like he's completely off his rocker now.
But is he a nut bar or is he playing a character?
Oh, both. Yes.
Both,
Yes.
maybe.
Yes.
Well, ever since his one girlfriend got killed or killed herself or whatever the hell it was, or OD'd or whatever the hell happened with that, don't come after us, YouTube. He has not been right.
Nope.
And he got blamed for that from the family and shit. It was really messy. And yeah. But anyway, you sent me this, and I thought this was an interesting bit to kind of go out on here. We got Tomb Raider, Sophie Turner and Lucy Boynton, if I'm saying that right, Boynton? Testing for Lara Croft in Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Amazon series. So this thing is, I guess, still happening. Now, are either one of these ladies somebody you could see as Lara Croft?
No.
I gotta see their
Not at
boobs.
all.
I was gonna say, as far as I can tell, neither one of them have boobs.
I was actually back when I was a gamer, PS1, PS2 days. I was a fan of the OG Tomb Raider games, Tomb Raider 1 and 2. Now, I'll tell you what, man, you had to it actually took talent to beat those games. You couldn't, those were games you bought and you beat them the day you got them. You actually had to.
You beat off the day you got those games?
You had to sit down, use your brain, and when your brain's not fully developed as a third or fourth grader, and you have to think smarter than you've ever thought before on harder than any test you took, dude. Yeah, those games, man, they're fun though. They're very fun and love them. And now I see what they do with this character. I'm just like, yeah, no. I just the more they touch this character, the better off we all are. They still have not given this character a story right. Even before the woke thing, really escalated. We still didn't get Tomb Raider done right as an adaptation, whether it's animation or live. Even the video games have fallen off a cliff as well. It should have stayed as a series that worked at its time, but then by the time PS2 or 3 happened, PS3 was the last time there's a good one. They just don't care about this character anymore because they care about who they want to appeal to, and that's the audience who doesn't want these games.
Yeah, I have very little to add to this because I'm not a big gamer. I mean, I've played, I think one of them once for a little bit.
Yeah.
I've seen the movies, and I thought the second one was unwatchable. So I'm not a good barometer of this, other than I know what Lara Croft is supposed to look like. And she has two very big assets. She runs around with these two big guns constantly. Oh, you guys thought I was going to talk about her boobs again?
Is she a redhead?
No.
No, she's more of a brunette, brown hair. Yeah.
Always has been.
Because I don't even care when they race swap people. So hair colors.
It'd be interesting to see somebody get swapped into a ginger for once. Yeah.
Because both
Sophie
those
Turner
women
gets
in that picture, I thought, weren't they redhead? So I thought.
I can't tell about the
they
other one.
Should have. Yeah, they did both look to be ginger, but the thing is, Lara Croft should be brown haired with the line wasn't line grip. It was like a blue green top and the shorts. Yeah, that's the character, but instead we're focusing
and they did variations on that for the Angelina Jolie version, right? She always had something that kind of invoked the same kind of feeling of it. But
she did have the closest to it. She definitely did have the closest thing to it. That's for sure.
Well, I'm only half joking about the guns because didn't they take her guns away in that last version?
Oh, I can't.
And they gave her a bow and arrow and a bunch of other stupid shit.
Oh, are you talking about the animation?
No, I'm talking about that one with the chick from, I think she's from Game of Thrones.
Oh, 2019 movie?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I didn't finish that movie. I would not put it past them to give her a bow and arrow. Which, hey,
I didn't watch it, but I think I remember from the trailers. I'm like, where the fuck are her guns?
Yeah. You can use that. It's cool to have that, as a added to her arsenal, but she should also have the guns.
Well, to me, that's part of her,
yeah.
Look, a character works best if you can tell who a character is by their silhouette. You could probably tell who Lara Croft is in her silhouette without her guns, but you give her guns, everybody's going to know that's Lara Croft. That's my point. Those guns at the hip are part of that silhouette, and you have to hit certain silhouette elements of a character, and that's where I can say, as long as you can work within that silhouette, you can get away with almost any costume for a character. Right, it's that silhouette that imprints on somebody's mind when they see it, and it's a pattern where even if you notice in characters, if they don't necessarily get all the costume or the details correct, as long as they get the proper kind of silhouette to that character, right, usually that's one of the ones that people gravitate towards and like. So, at the end of the day, I feel like that's a big thing. Freddy Krueger's a good example of that too, and some other characters like that. Indiana Jones. Hats help, obviously. Parrot Head sends in 2 and says Nick Weiser flavor number 33. Marvel's pathetic Pilsner. Are we starting over again? Because I
Yeah,
thought
I
there
was
was
gonna
already like 100
say.
some flavors.
Yeah, there was like for a while, for like a year and a half, we had all these additional flavors. Are we gonna make Nick Weiser's flavors great again? Is this the new thing?
And
Which
to answer Six's question,
that sounds like a
both.
weird thing to say. Make my flavors great again.
Both double barrels unloaded. That's right. We're going to get out of here because we got some Blade to talk about over on Nick's channel here in a few minutes, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Can I ask you both about a conspiracy theory that I have? Speaking of Blade, so Marvel took Blade off the
menu
schedule, the calendar,
Yes.
and Wesley Snipes recently signed with a new representation company. Is it possible that they're retooling the script
and get Wesley Snipes
and
back?
I think that's a good indication that might be happening.
I don't know, but
although
is it
somebody
thinking?
did come out and try and say that Mahershala Ali is still attached to this for some dumb reason, but yeah, never know.
Okay.
Because when I was hearing that they let Jonathan Majors go, that was right before we found out that he got fired from his agency or whatever. And as all of us kept saying, is like, you don't fire somebody if they just lost a couple of not big deal jobs, but if you lose your Marvel deal, then yeah. So yeah, I mean, something like that happening, that could be a sign that he's moving on back up the ranks. I mean, he got a lot of positive buzz from that, and I can't believe that people at Disney and Marvel weren't paying attention to that, and this thing has been in such development hell for a long time. I would think that's a sign that that's a possibility. I think that it adds at least another 10, 20% to the possibility, I would say, if not more.
I was just
and that's the best way I can
curious.
answer that right now without knowing more, because yeah. I mean, there couldn't be no connection whatsoever, or it could be, he's moving up the ranks, so he's got a much better agent now. That could very, very well be. Because sometimes it's not even like you're being stolen from somebody else. Sometimes you just get moved up the ranks. Like, if you ever see like a show like Entourage and stuff like that, that kind of gives you good insight into how some of these things work sometimes.
Well, I figure he's got something in the hopper if he's switching agencies.
Yeah,
or management, or I don't even know what they're called.
Sometimes
representation is, I think, how I don't know. I got an email about it.
All right. Well, again, I think that adds a little more credence to it for sure.
Yeah.
If I had to guess. But anything you want to plug, Six?
Halloween is coming up. Please keep your pets safe.
Halloween.
Keep your kitties inside if possible. Keep your dogs on a leash. Don't let them run out and bite a kid because they're scared, or, strange visitors coming to the house for trick-or-treaters, and have lots and lots of fun.
Indeed. And if you're going to be out partying, drink responsibly. Or party responsibly, however you do it.
Yep.
All right. Let's see you all over on Nick Weiser's show here in a few minutes. We're not going to skip the hill. Night, kids. See you there.
Bye.